Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into one of the most exciting topics for coin collectors and treasure hunters, the most valuable Abraham Lincoln steel penny ever made so special. How much they're worth in today's market, and what you need to know to sell them successfully at auction. So let's get started. First up, the 1943 Abraham Lincoln steel penny with an S mint mark is one of the most remarkable and historically significant coins ever produced by the United States Mint. This coin, struck at the San Francisco Mint, represents a unique moment in American history during World War II, when copper was urgently needed for the war effort, and the U.S. Mint was forced to use an alternative metal for coin production. Unlike the traditional copper Lincoln cents, the 1943 pennies were made of steel coated with zinc, giving them a distinctive silvery appearance and making them the only regular-issue U.S. pennies ever made primarily of steel. On the obverse, front, of your 1943 S, steel penny is the familiar and dignified portrait of President Abraham Lincoln, facing right. Above his head is the motto, "In God We Trust." To the left of his portrait appears the word "Liberty," and to the right, the date 1943 followed by the small S mint mark, signifying that this coin was struck at the San Francisco Mint. The design was created by Victor David Brenner and first appeared in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. The reverse, back, of the coin carries Brenner's famous wheat ears design, used from 1909 until 1958. Two wheat stalks curve along the edges of the coin, framing the denomination 1 cent and the inscription United States of America. The Latin motto E pluribus unum, meaning out of many, one appears along the top rim. Though simple in design, this layout symbolized America's agricultural roots, unity, and strength, all highly relevant during the wartime years. The 1943 S. Lincoln cent was struck from a core of steel and plated with a thin layer of zinc to prevent rusting. Each coin weighs about 2.70 grams, slightly lighter than the traditional copper pennies, 3.11 grams, and has a diameter of 19 millimeters with a plain edge. The bright silvery color of these coins was strikingly different from any other cent ever seen before. However, over time, the zinc coating often wore down, exposing the steel beneath and causing many coins to darken or develop rust spots. Your coin is described as being in fine condition with some scratches, which means it circulated for a period of time but still retains a good amount of detail. In this grade, Lincoln's portrait remains visible with moderate wear on the high points, and the inscriptions are clear and fully legible. The wheat stalks on the reverse are moderately worn, but still show definition. The scratches and surface marks are typical for steel cents, as their hard metal composition made them prone to abrasions during circulation. Some dirt or dull gray toning might also appear, which is normal for a coin of this age and material. The San Francisco Mint produced around 191 million 1943 S steel cents, making them somewhat scarcer than the Philadelphia or Denver issues, though still relatively common overall. Because of the large mintage, these coins are widely available, but their unique composition and historical context make them extremely popular among collectors and history enthusiasts. In today's collector market, the value of a 1943 S steel penny depends greatly on its condition and the presence of any rust or corrosion. In good-to-fine condition, such as your coin, the value typically ranges between $100 and $250. In very fine to extremely fine condition, the coin can be worth $300 to $400, while uncirculated examples with bright original luster can sell for $1 to $3 or more. Brilliant mint state coins certified by grading companies like PCGS or NGC can bring $400 to $500, depending on how clean and bright the surfaces are. Given your coin's fine condition with scratches, a fair market estimate in today's market is around $0.15 to $0.25. It's worth noting that some counterfeit and altered coins have circulated over the years, often made by coating regular copper pennies to look like steel, or altering 1948 copper cents to appear as 1943 errors. However, your 1943's steel penny is a genuine wartime issue, a legitimate and fascinating piece of American numismatic history. Although its monetary value is modest, its historical significance is extraordinary. The 1943 steel penny tells the story of America's wartime sacrifice and ingenuity. During World War II, the U.S. government redirected millions of pounds of copper for ammunition, wiring, and military equipment. To conserve this crucial resource, the mint temporarily switched to steel, creating one of the most distinctive coins ever made. The experiment lasted just 1 year. As the steel cents caused practical issues, they rusted easily and were often mistaken for dimes, leading the mint to return to copper in 1944. Your coin, even with its scratches and discoloration, carries the legacy of that era. It is a silent witness to a time when every American contributed to the war effort, and even small items like pennies reflected the country's determination and resourcefulness. To preserve your 1943 ES steel penny, avoid cleaning it, as cleaning can scratch the surface further or remove the protective zinc layer. Handle it gently by the edges and store it in a dry, acid-free coin holder or plastic flip to prevent rust. If possible, keep it in a low-humidity environment to protect the steel core from corrosion. Next up are 1943. Abraham Lincoln steel penny without a mint mark is one of the most unique and historically significant coins ever struck by the United States Mint. Produced at the Philadelphia Mint, this coin was part of a special 1-year issue made during World War II, when copper, the usual metal for pennies, was urgently needed for the war effort to produce ammunition and military equipment. As a result, the mint made an unprecedented change and produced pennies out of steel coated with zinc, giving them a distinctive silver-gray color that immediately stood out from traditional copper cents. The 1943 Lincoln cent is composed of a steel core plated with zinc, giving it a total weight of about 2.70 grams, noticeably lighter than traditional copper cents, which weigh 3.11 grams. The coin measures 19 millimeters in diameter and has a plain edge. When first struck, these coins had a bright, shiny appearance similar to a dime, but over time, many have lost their original luster due to oxidation or exposure to moisture. Some have darkened or developed small rust spots, as steel is prone to corrosion once the zinc coating wears off. Your coin is described as being in very fine condition with some scratches, which means that it shows moderate wear from circulation, but still retains strong details. In this grade, Lincoln's facial features and hair remain visible, though slightly worn. The lettering and date are bold and fully legible. On the reverse, the wheat stalks are moderately worn but still show clear outlines, and the inscriptions remain distinct. The scratches you mention are normal for circulated coins, especially for steel cents, which were more susceptible to surface marks due to their hard metal composition. The Philadelphia Mint produced an enormous number of these coins, around 684 million in total, making the 1943 steel penny one of the most widely distributed coins in U.S. history. Because of this large mintage, they are not considered rare in circulated condition, but they are still very popular among collectors because of their unique metal composition and historical context. In today's collector market, the value of a 1943 steel penny depends heavily on its condition and whether it has any rust, damage, or unusual toning. In good to fine condition, a typical example sells for $0.10 to $0.20. In very fine condition, like your coin, the value is usually around $0.25 to $0.50. In extremely fine condition, The value can rise to 0.75 to 1 20. Prouters, while uncirculated coins with bright original zinc plating can sell for $1 to $3. Brilliant. High-grade examples certified by grading services such as PCGS or NGC can reach prices of $10 to $25 or more, depending on their surface quality and luster. Based on your description, a 1943 steel penny without a mint mark, in very fine condition with scratches, a fair market value today would be about $0.30 to $0.40, although the monetary value may be modest. The historical value of this coin is exceptional. The 1943 steel penny was produced during a time when the United States was fully engaged in World War II, and every resource was precious. The government decided to conserve copper for wartime production, which meant even the humble penny had to be reimagined. This resulted in one of the most distinctive and collectible coins ever made by the U.S. Mint. The experiment lasted only 1 year, as the steel cents caused confusion in commerce. They were often mistaken for dimes and tended to rust easily. In 1944, the Mint returned to using copper, melting down shell casings from the war to produce new pennies. Your coin is a tangible piece of that incredible story. A small, silvery reminder of how a nation united its efforts during one of the most challenging times in history. Every scratch and bit of wear adds to its character, showing that it circulated during an era when people were rationing supplies, supporting troops overseas, and living through historic change. To preserve your 1943 steel penny, it's very important not to clean it. Cleaning can strip away the thin zinc coating and expose the steel core underneath, causing rust to develop more quickly. Instead, handle the coin gently by its edges to avoid leaving fingerprints, and store it in a dry, non-PVC plastic holder or acid-free paper envelope. Keep it away from humidity, as moisture is the main cause of rusting on these coins. Next up, the 1943 Abraham Lincoln steel penny with a D Mint mark is one of the most fascinating and historically important coins ever minted in the United States. Struck at the Denver Mint during the height of World War II, this coin tells a remarkable story of resourcefulness and national sacrifice. That year, the U.S. Mint made a bold and temporary change to the penny's composition, switching from traditional copper to steel coated with zinc to save copper for essential wartime materials such as ammunition, shell casings, and communication equipment. This unique change gave the 1943 penny its distinct silvery appearance, unlike any other Lincoln cent before or since. The 1943 steel penny is made from a steel core plated with zinc, giving it a total weight of about 2.70 grams, compared to the 3.11 grams of earlier copper cents. The coin measures 19 millimeters in diameter and has a plain edge. When newly minted, these coins had a bright, mirror-like surface similar to a dime. But over time, most have dulled or darkened due to wear and oxidation. Because steel is highly reactive once the zinc layer wears away, many surviving coins show spots of rust or discoloration. Your coin is described as being in dirty condition with some scratches, which suggests it has circulated widely and accumulated surface grime and wear over time. In this state, the original shiny coating may have faded or become darkened, and the coin might have small marks or abrasions on its surface. These scratches are typical for steel pennies that have been handled frequently, as the metal was harder and less forgiving than copper. Despite this wear, the main design elements, Lincoln's portrait, the lettering, and the date, are likely still visible and clear, though lacking in fine detail. In terms of value, condition plays the most important role in determining what your coin is worth in today's market. The 1943 D steel penny is a very popular collector's item because of its distinctive composition and historical significance, but it is not considered rare due to the high number minted. However, collectors value well-preserved examples or coins with strong detail and Minimal rust in average circulated. Condition like yours, dirty with some scratches. The market value today typically ranges from 10 to 20 cents. In fine to very fine condition, the value can rise to around 25 to 40 cents. In extremely fine condition, these coins may fetch 0 to 50 to 1 to 148 centavos, while uncirculated coins with original silvery luster can sell for $2 to $5. High-grade examples certified by grading services such as PCGS or NGC can command even higher prices, sometimes reaching $10 to $20 or more, depending on the quality of the surfaces and strike. Based on your description, dirty, with some scratches and showing clear signs of circulation, a realistic current market value for your 1943 die steel penny would be around 0.15 to $0.25. Although the monetary value of your coin is modest, its historical importance cannot be overstated. The 1943 steel penny is a tangible artifact from one of the most critical periods in American history. When the United States entered World War II, every ounce of copper was needed for the war effort. The decision to use steel instead of copper for 1 year reflected the country's collective spirit of sacrifice and ingenuity. Interestingly, because these coins looked like dimes, many people confused them in daily transactions. The experiment lasted only 1 year, and in 1944, the mint returned to copper, using recycled shell casings from the war to strike new pennies. Some 1943 steel pennies even turned into legendary rarities because of minting errors. For instance, a few were accidentally struck on leftover copper planchets instead of steel, creating the famous 1943 copper penny, one of the rarest and most valuable coins in the world, worth over $100,000 in top condition. Although your 1943D steel cent is not one of those rare copper errors, it still represents the same moment in history and the same extraordinary circumstances that led to one of the most interesting changes in U.S. coinage. The appearance of your coin, with its darkened tone, scratches, and traces of dirt, actually adds to its historical charm. It may have passed through countless hands during wartime America, used to buy rationed goods, or perhaps tucked away as a keepsake when people realized it looked different from ordinary pennies. Each mark and scratch tells a story of a time when the country was united in effort and sacrifice. If you wish to preserve your coin, avoid cleaning it, as cleaning can easily damage the zinc coating and expose the steel underneath, which can cause rust to spread more quickly. Instead, gently handle it by the edges and store it in a dry, acid-free holder or coin flip to protect it from moisture. Keeping it in a stable, low-humidity environment will help prevent further oxidation. Next up, the 1957 Abraham Lincoln wheat penny with a D mint mark is a beautiful example of the last years of the beloved wheat cent design that ran from 1909 to 1958. This coin was minted at the Denver Mint, and it carries the small D mint mark just below the date on the obverse side. Even though the 1957 D penny is common in circulation, it holds both historical and sentimental value among collectors and coin enthusiasts, especially when found in extra fine condition like yours. The 1957 D wheat penny is composed of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, giving it a warm reddish-brown tone. It weighs approximately 3.11 grams, measures 19 millimeters in diameter, and has a plain edge. Because it is made primarily of copper, it naturally develops a rich brown or reddish patina over time. Many examples show slight darkening or uneven color due to age and handling. Your description notes that the coin has some scratches, which is quite common for a circulated coin of this age, as pennies were heavily used in everyday transactions. Being in extra fine condition, your coin shows light wear on the highest points of Lincoln's portrait, such as his cheekbone and jawline, but all major details are still sharp and well-defined. The lettering and date remain bold and legible, and the wheat stalks on the reverse side are crisp, with only minor smoothing. This condition is considerably better than most circulated examples, and it shows that your coin has been handled gently over the years. In terms of value in today's market, the 1957 D penny is not considered rare because of its high mintage, but condition, color, and surface quality can affect its worth. In average circulated condition, these coins are worth around 2 to 5 cents, mainly for their copper content and collector interest. However, in extra fine condition, the value rises slightly due to the coin's better preservation and eye appeal. A 1957 D Lincoln wheat penny in extra fine condition typically sells for $0.10 to $0.12 on the current collector market. If the coin retains more of its original red or reddish-brown luster, it could be valued a bit higher, around $0.25 to $0.30. Examples with full original red coloration that are graded and encapsulated by professional grading services such as PCGS or NGC can command even higher prices, sometimes $5 to $15 or more, depending on the exact grade, based on your description of a coin in extra fine condition with some scratches. The realistic market value today is about $0.15 to $0.25. Although its monetary value is modest, your 1957 D wheat penny carries real historical charm. It represents the final chapter of the classic Lincoln Wheat Cent series, which ended just 1 year later in 1958. In 1959, the U.S. Mint replaced the wheat design with the Lincoln Memorial Reverse, commemorating the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. That change marked the end of an era, making coins like yours the last of a proud and beloved design that ran for nearly 50 years. The 1957 D penny also has historical significance because it was minted during a time of great change and optimism in America. The post-war boom of the 1950s. It circulated during the Eisenhower era when the U.S. was experiencing economic growth, industrial expansion, and a rising middle class. Many people from that generation still remember using these copper wheat pennies in everyday life, making them nostalgic treasures even today. When it comes to preserving your coin, it's best not to clean it, even if it looks dirty or has scratches. Cleaning can remove the natural toning and damage the coin's surface, which can actually lower its value. Instead, handle it by the edges to avoid leaving fingerprints and store it in a dry, acid-free holder or a plastic coin flip designed for long-term protection. Keeping it in a low-humidity environment will help prevent tarnish and discoloration. The 1957 D Abraham Lincoln wheat penny remains a highly recognizable and collectible coin that symbolizes both America's history and craftsmanship. Though it is not particularly rare, it holds sentimental and educational value. It connects collectors to the long tradition of Lincoln cents and to the enduring legacy of Abraham Lincoln himself, one of the most admired presidents in U.S. history. Next up, the 1945 Abraham Lincoln wheat penny without a mint mark is one of the most recognizable and historically rich coins from mid-20th century America. Struck at the Philadelphia Mint, which did not use a mint mark at that time, this coin is a wonderful piece of U.S. numismatic history that connects directly to the closing years of World War II. 2. Despite being common in circulation, its historical context and classic design make it a valuable keepsake for collectors and coin enthusiasts alike. This penny is made of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, giving it a rich reddish-brown tone that deepens naturally over time. It weighs approximately 3.11 grams, has a plain edge, and measures 19 millimeters in diameter. Many examples from this era develop a soft brown or dark tone due to oxidation and natural aging, which is perfectly normal and often adds to the coin's character. Your coin is described as being in very fine condition with some scratches, which means it retains a good amount of original detail but shows moderate wear from circulation. On the obverse, you can expect to see clear definition in Lincoln's 2 hair, beard, and coat, though with slight flattening on the highest points. The date and lettering are bold and fully legible. On the reverse, the wheat stalks are well defined, though the fine grain lines may be partially worn down. The small scratches you mention are typical for circulated coins of this age and do not significantly reduce its overall appeal or value. In terms of value, the 1945 Lincoln wheat penny is not rare because of its high production numbers. The Philadelphia Mint struck over $515,000 of these coins, more than 1 billion, making it one of the most common wheat pennies of the 1940s. However, condition, color, and surface quality can influence how much collectors are willing to pay. In the current collector market, a 1945 Lincoln wheat penny without a mint mark typically sells for around 5 to 10 cents in good to fine condition. In very fine condition, like your coin, the value generally ranges from $0.10 to $0.20. Coins that are extremely fine may be worth $0.10 to $0.35, while uncirculated examples with full red luster can fetch between $0.75 and $2, depending on quality. Professionally graded examples that retain strong original mint shine may reach $5 to $10 or more. Based on your description, very fine condition with some scratches, a fair market value today would be around $0.15 to $0.20, while the monetary value is small. The historical and sentimental significance of your 1945 Lincoln penny is much greater. This coin was minted in the year the world witnessed the end of World War II. American troops returned home, wartime production shifted back to consumer goods, and the nation began a period of rebuilding and prosperity. Pennies like this one were used by millions of Americans during that pivotal year, perhaps to buy a loaf of bread, a newspaper announcing victory, or a small treat for a returning soldier. Every mark and scratch on your coin tells part of that story. The wheat penny design, introduced in 1909 for the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, became one of the most iconic in U.S. coinage. Lincoln was the first real person ever featured on a regular U.S. coin, and his portrait was chosen to symbolize integrity, unity, and the American spirit. The coin's simplicity and elegance helped it remain in circulation for nearly 50 years before being replaced in 1959 by the Lincoln Memorial design. Your 1945 penny also represents the final chapter of wartime coinage, which had seen significant experimentation just 2 years earlier. In 1943, pennies were made of steel coated with zinc to save copper for the war effort. However, the steel since rusted easily and confused people because they looked like dimes, so the mint returned to copper in 1944 using recycled shell casings from the war. The 1945 penny continued that tradition. Quite literally, your coin may have been struck from metal that once helped win the war. To preserve your 1945 Lincoln penny, it's important not to clean it. Cleaning can scratch the surface, alter its natural color, and reduce its collector value. Instead, handle it gently by the edges, avoiding direct contact with the face of the coin to prevent oils from your fingers from causing discoloration. Store it in a dry, acid-free coin holder or a plastic coin flip to protect it from humidity, which can cause corrosion or spotting over time. Even though its market value may be modest, the 1945 Abraham Lincoln wheat penny is a timeless artifact of American history. It represents resilience, victory, and hope during a time when the entire world was emerging from conflict. Every collector appreciates these coins not just for their design, but for what they symbolize: the perseverance and optimism of a nation led by one of its greatest presidents.